Hello, welcome to this video. This is going to be my intro to level 6 within my energetic system series. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks. Thank you so much for joining me here. If you are new, I would just put, or I would like to put a little word of caution here at the start. This is kind of an intro video, so um, it could be beneficial even if you don't have background knowledge, but just know that there is a lot more behind the concepts here that we've already kind of discussed and talked about. And this is meant to be recircling to just touching on old topics before we move into a more integrated working of them. So in order to get that more integrated, deeper working that I'm looking to offer here in level 6, you really do have to work through the foundations and through the torus system as a 3-part tool in your own world, and learning about your own external service, what that energy is about, what that space of the torus and the external working is all about, and also about the inner core and the vortex within that really fuels everything, so that you can understand where you're at, and then how to engage with the rest of the others here, which is kind of what we're going to be taking it at a look at. From here on forward is sort of how we engage with others and how we also engage with ourselves at that, at that level. So, like I said, hoping to offer this to those who have already sort of been with me through the other levels. But feel welcome to listen along if you're new. So let me jump right into it, because I do want to try to keep today's video short. So I'm going to pull my first share screen here. And this is just the most general. There we go. Now, this is sort of just a reminder for us that every layer that we are made of is a reflection of the others. And all layers, mind, body, and spirit, can also be looked at and called and referenced external, internal, and an overall flow. It's so important that we start to see the parallels and the commonalities between different terms because they do specific work. And I color coded them here, so that it's more obvious. And I use the red and blue in combination with the purple, because the overall flow, the spirit, the lemniscatic figure 8 of, the passing through, that is the essence of that third part, really is a merging and also a new creation of those two. It couldn't be there without the two, and yet it is something different and of itself. It does its own specific work, it is its own specific layer, and yet it is this bringing together of combination of pieces of the external and internal systems, or of the mind and the body. Every layer of consciousness holds the same potentiality of awareness of these systems. And so, what does that really mean in plain language? Well, it means that, and we've explored already, but just for reiteration, right? Each layer, the mind, the body, and the spirit, they have their own and become their own whole system, their own triad of creation, and their own divine reflections and versions of mind, body, and spirit. And when we segregate each system as their own whole and choose to look at them in that fashion, we should be guided by and accept that they do have their own versions of this 3-layer systems within themselves. We can use it as guidance to understand them better, to observe processes more deeply and with more clarity. And yeah, so what we're going to be focusing on, sort of bringing back and into a main focus, will be sort of the spirit layer now, for level 6. I really wanted to circle back around to this more mysterious body after we'd done exploration within first the mind and the inner workings, and then the body and the external working. The spirit in itself has its own versions, communications, and connections to the body and the mind, their bosses, their systems. Um, not only does it have its own sort of external connections and communion with those 3 layers, but those 3 layers have their own ambassadors, kind of, within the spirit realm and within the spirit layer that they embody and they are a part of. And those layers of body and mind and spirit within spirit have their own connections and sort of energetic language and transactions that they communicate directly to the body and to the mind's bosses of those other external layers. Things can sound a bit repetitive and also a bit confusing if um, if it does. Don't take too much. Um, don't put too much stock into it. You'll grasp things as they unfold for you. But just know that it's not that the repetition means that it's there's nothing new or nothing there to work with, or it's same old, but it's actually a great opening for more work. It's a general template, and then we can use it to sort of tailor fit down in each specific layer or category. Um, so I just brought this in just as a full sort of reminder of where we are, of the whole systems, of how our whole system can be dissected down. And even when we dissect it down, it's still a reflection of the whole. And we can still use the same laws and guides and training and exercises to get into those mechanisms and understand the workings. Um, they're relative to all the layers. So I'm going to stop this one and pull up the next here, which I'm gonna, yeah, deliberating on what is best to share. But let's look at the specific infographic that I made here for the actual spirit layer, the Mobius or lemniscatic flow. I have shared this before, so if you are totally not new, then you'll know this one. But again, it's just to go over these things again and to look at them, to see what we see different, to see what more is there this time around. As I already said, this is sort of the communion, the energetic value of intention of conversations between the toroidal and the inner vortex. Yeah, and I have a typo there. That's okay. The examples of influence is sort of what area that the spirit body sort of controls, right? And it has to do with the speed of flow of the torus, the transparency available within your systems and your working in your torus field, your energetic field, your frequencies, right? It has to do with your service and directionality. And what does that mean? Well, it means, do you have a calling in a direction towards service to others, or do you have an alignment and direction towards service to the self? Either, both of them are workable systems, and we've talked a little bit about that. We'll continue to talk about that. That, of course, is the more main concepts and focus of the spirit body is sort of harnessing that directionality and the momentum of where our alignments take us. Also, things like the consistency of the flow. Um, and that's kind of like, is it, are you continuously, in a positive free flowing service, or are you sort of struggling between a service to others and self? Is there some back and forth that's happening? Which of course is mostly the case for all of us. And we're going to get more into that as we talk more clearly about um, the flow and what that really means. And I said a little bit about this, about the pulsations and the constant flux that it's in. It's a vibratory resonance. Um, and it's important that we understand and know that um, for beginners, for clarity, for understanding the general workings, we're talking about and looking at the torus now in these two different workings of a flow, of a continual flow like this, of external positive flow in an organic alignment, or in a negative drawing in flow that is more of an inverted and organic alignment. It's it's easy to learn. It's helpful to see things at a surface level and to get a clear picture of things. But now that we have an understanding of the tip of the iceberg, we have to incorporate and understand that uh, life isn't just that simple, right? Things are very complex and complicated for reasons. Um, and we have to respect and honor that. And so, yes, we want to seek a smooth momentum. Yes, it is a possibility and it is out there in potentiality to have a wonderful, ever flowing positive Taurus that is completely aligned to service to others in a full flowing, never hits a catalyst, never bumps back into service to self, or has these sort of internal um, conflicts of intentions and of energetics happening. I'm sure there's other enlightened beings, other types of beings. I'm not trying, to pinpoint anything here, but just saying that um, when we're looking at the models and we're talking about it, um, this is sort of an image of that we hope to attain. It isn't exactly clear to the representation of what we see in everyday life. Because in everyday life and with all of us, we have these struggles between self and other. We're human. We're here for learning, and we aren't on that ascended complete path yet. I mean, take a look around at the collective, and you can see that it's not running freely. Um, it's not a positively flowing complete collective. And so we have to understand, as we are all pieces of the whole and we are reflections of the whole, that if the whole has big problems, we can't just excuse away, oh, those are problems of the whole and I don't have any of those problems. I'm not a part of that. We all are. And at some, whether it's a smaller portion or deeper seated or whatever the case might be, um, it's still there within you. And to accept that and own that, and not to be belittled by it or to say that you're not doing work or anything. It's to own it and be proud of it and to say, yeah, it's difficult work, but I'm doing it. Um, and that's what I mean about seeking a positive alignment and course correcting against service to others, and these law of one type of guidances that tell us and teach us things like the golden rule and how to love your neighbor and stuff. All of these good things, all of these positive laws and alignments, they are there to guide us and for us to um, course correct ourselves against and to seek towards. But we do obviously have hiccups. We have these sort of contrasting dualities within us. That's our given role to play out here and to work out. And so yes, I'm giving sort of this sort of roundabout explanation, but I'm saying that to say that as we dive deeper into the spirit level, we're going to learn more about the flow and how, yes, it is can be seen as an ever flowing figure eight, and it does have this sort of um, it has a directionality, whether pushing out or pulling in. But that's sort of the mean or average. Um, it's a snapshot image of present moment. And it is not every single little happening, you know? Um, every single little tiny happening is almost like a pulsating heart or beating or a still frame image. Um, all of them lined up, right? There's a separation and on and off. There's a blinking happening. There's a reset and a start that happens at the tiniest measurement of consciousness. Um, most people who have done any sort of seeking come around to that sort of understanding. And that in itself tells us and is the clue and is the truth to us. And it's also the key because it tells us no matter how many mistakes or catalysts or obstacles or how many times we've chosen service to self or even how um, charged and aligned we might have collected into a self negatively aligned systems. We have a renewal every time, every moment to make the different choice, to realign, to hear truth and acknowledge it, to see everything for as it is. At any moment you can choose to do that, and it's your choice. Um, and I really think that we'll get into this later, but I really think that that's a message and a purpose in why we have this great sort of um, dualistic, contrasting roles and occurrences happening, sort of to reassure us and confirm to us over and over again that change happens, it's possible. um, so yeah, I'm gonna drop this neutral tool sort of talking about the lemniscatic flow here on this sheet, and I'm gonna pull up I guess we can just look at a quick comparisons first. We'll do some comparisons and then I'll just break into the positive system overall. um, what I have here is sort of a reminder again, and this brings it to the torus mostly. But if you see at the top, I have the in green sort of an organic. It's kind of small, but sorry. The organic original positive flow, and then on the other side in red, we have the inorganic inversion and the negative flow, and they look very similar. Um, which is sort of the point. It's supposed to be difficult to discern what's happening. And it's the point of hearing the truth and seeing things for the workings as they are, instead of taking a word or a mask or somebody's presentation as truth. We really have to go with our own truths. Um, I'm showing this sort of comparison here because I want to remind us as we start to talk about polarity and collecting of charge and what that really means. It all harkens back to the same truths we already talked about with the torus being a tool, and with the fact that the way that your service works really impacts everything. And your external service, which I'm showing here, um, in the bottom with the arrows, you can kind of see the positive little head and pushing outwards, and the negative underneath withdrawing in. That's the positive flow. And you can see like the negative part of the system where you're pulling in retribution from service, where you're pulling in nutrients from the external world, and where you're pulling in um, support or whatever it is, love. Um, it's at the root level. It's coming in through the base at those lower energy chakras. And also, if you just think of it more naturally in an organic way, just like a tree, just like plants, just like we see guidance from nature, seeing where they soak up water, where they bring in nutrients, where they bring in information from communication as well, right? There's more and more you can learn about trees and their intricate network of conversations and how they live and in communion with fungus and all types of stuff. It's really amazing, but all of their impulses are taken in through the roots and brought up. And if we could remember that, we are part of this earth, and we should take cues from nature, then you can see it makes sense. Just like we would pull in these things from below, um, through those lower density, deeper um, chakra centers, energy centers, and it brings it up through there, and it passes it in to that inner core vortex. And when we talked about how the inner core sits, right, it's actually opposite to the external torito. And this causes, a work, and it's a give and take, and it's a balancing. um, we see this flip-flopping of negative and positive systems and workings within each other, um, happening from large to small. And they really work to balance each other, and they also work as this energy alchemy machine, right, to create a charge, to create more energy, and to hold it. And when we have the inner core as a negative system, it serves the self. And when we're pulling in from the external down at the roots, it pulls it in, and it immediately hits a positive charge. It immediately hits the set, um, to go where it needs to go, of service within the body. And I talked a lot about that in the inner core, and if you're new, definitely go look at those, and it'll have those videos to help you learn about these alignments. I don't want to take up too much more time, but I do just want to compare it to the negative alignment here, because the negative, is the actual opposite. It's the inversion. So we have the negative up at the top here, with all of the drawing in happening at the top, and we have pushing out at the bottom of the roots. We're really needing, sort of masculine, action oriented pushing, a really driven, charged up energy, in order to push out the roots. Because you can tell in the organic world that the roots are not meant to push out, they're meant to receive in. um, and so we need an extra added energy in order to push out, and be very, that's why you notice people very forceful in their world, and very much think they need to force their world to change, and they have to make an impact on things and make things happen in their world. These are things that, become really truth in a negatively aligned world, because you have to tell yourself, oh, I have to push, oh, this, it has to be hard in order to work. um, those are the things a negative system has to tell itself as truth, um, to compensate and keep its system going, because the negative is drawing inwards, and it's drawing inwards from the higher energy centers, from the mind's eye and from the crown. And that has a lot to do, right, with frenetic thoughts, with thought energy, with organization, and biases and judgments. And in a negatively aligned system, the biases and judgments say, I need more. I need what I need to keep my system going. My system is most important. I need to live as long as I can. I need to make sure I have energy before I could do anything. I need to make sure I have plenty of X, Y, and Z before this. I need to make sure I last as long over others, right? Um, that's the sort of alignment and truths that come with a negative system. And when we're pulling in our resources, energy, and light from above, and drawing them in through the energy centers, in this inverted way, what happens is that, they can't actually be used in the inner system, to the benefit of the inner systems, because the inner system is action oriented, and it's pushing outwards. It's looking for work to do within the self. It's looking and pushing to get things done inside. And so when you're drawing things in, there's never time to actually receive them and organize and assess where they're really needed, who's calling for them, who needs them most. It's very rushed and pushed. It's very survival and now based. And so, as soon as things come in, they're pushed into whatever they need to do, whatever is, the system believes is most important within the body. And that, because we have an incorrect and an inverted inner core happening, You're never actually listening to your heart center. You're never actually listening to your truths and what you really need within you. You put a manhole cover over your heart and your one truth there, and sort of the ego center flames up and becomes overexcited, and it bosses everything around in there, and it thinks it knows best. And it really just tells the heart to shut up, and it just connects directly up here to frenetic thought and the mind's boss. And the mind and the body just overpower the spirit, they overpower everything, and they just push the system to go because it needs to survive. And that's really uh, that's really the truth and the end all be all of the negative oriented system. There's never time to really relax, save, or feel supported or abundant or love yourself, because the system's not set up for that. The rules and the laws don't allow for that, because they're based on lack, and it's a debt driven system that never has enough. Conversely, you have available to you at all times an eternal light within you that says you live forever and that your energy is unlimited. And if you choose to operate in that way, it flips all of the roles and creates a ripple effect within you. And that changes, the torus, and that changes the flow of energies, and that changes the ripple effect of all of the things that you see outside of you and what ends up happening in your external world. Hoping that we've gone through those sort of things and you've seen these changes, and that's why to bring it back here in level 6 now is to really start to zoom in at these transactions and at conscious interactions that we're involved in, to really do better work for ourselves and for others, and to make sure that the course alignment that we're doing is becoming smoother, is becoming less sort of manic, depressant, up and down, peaks and troughs, light and shadows, having these really stiff cycles of growth and dark nights of the souls. Those things they're wonderful workings, but at the same time, they're meant to become more fluid, more graceful, more integrated. Just like I talked about the choppy flow and having, a lemniscatic blinking that's continually happening. We do eventually, through lifetimes and changes and evolution, want to get to a more fluid flow. And this is, the work where we're at. This is how it begins. And it's all about taking responsibility and accountability for your present moment, and for that sort of give and take that happens between the systems in service, and honoring their organic alignments. And also the partnerships of positive and negative. It's not about trying to have everything be positive all the time either. It's about moving through things that are negative. I'm pulling up here just to reiterate this sort of truths. Sorry, I have too many screens open. This is what course correcting is about. This is kind of a short version of what we'll be getting even more deeply into when we start to dive into what polarity is, what this sort of transactions and passing through the two systems really are. Because it's all of the transactions between both of them that sort of come together to harmonize into this sort of moving melody that is polarity, that is direction, that is service. I already sort of gave a little bit about the hearts and caging your heart and stuff. This is a different variation, but it's showing how energy is infinite, right? And within this self-sustaining positive version, we see this eternal flame within us. It's abundant, it's glowing bright, it's ever glowing, and it shines out. Something within us is bright and alive. And it can be a dream, it can be a calling, it can be a song, it can be a painting within you, it can be just love. It could be wanting to help others, it could be wanting to listen, it can be something as exciting as just wanting to be an adventurer, wanting to push the boundaries of innovation and create tools and make changes in the world. whatever fuels you is your divine purpose, and that is sort of what the flame in the image is supposed to represent as a metaphor. And on the other side, we have it caged and it's stifled, it's smaller, and the arrow's pointing inwards. And that means, that we are always looking for fuel for that fire. We're always looking outside to bring things in to confirm the fire is there, that it's still burning, that it's worthy, that it will go on, and that it has enough fuel, wood or whatever to keep going. Um, when when we talk more about polarity, and as we get into this, we're going to be talking about more about our reality, interacting with others, what type of systems we build out there, and eventually getting into even what kind of systems we choose to be involved in and don't, what type of systems we choose to build out there, right, and what systems we choose to leave alone. But this, it all starts with the systems that we build within ourselves, the truths and the instructions and directions we run our systems on. And our systems here, there's two different ways, right? We have this sort of energy is limited or energy is infinite, right? We have a debt based or we have self sustaining, right? We have abundance or lack. That are two very different truths that we could either choose to honor truth, right? Which is, that you are here and alive and that you are on purpose with purpose. Or you could reject that truth just as easily and say that you don't like that idea. When we choose to reject that truth, what happens is that we offer service in alignment with our own present needs and desires, right? Become self centered. We seek to hoard, save, and stagnate. And that runs all the rules inside all the systems within you. And just like I gave a little bit of a comparison about, how and what we do with our energy systems, the external and the internal, when our internal is running off instructions to save and stagnate and stay as much as we can, to hold on as much as we can to nutrients and energy, it creates a different atmosphere within you. I hope you can hear that. Versus, when we honor truth, we can offer service in alignment with source and our highest purpose, and we seek to share and prosper and accept others. It's two very different ways to look at things. So I'm going to pull up my final thing here, and oops. And this is just a bit of another comparison. I've shared this before, and put it up on Telegram for anybody who wants to take a while to read it in case the text is a little too small. But these are recognized truths. And I feel as we're going to be starting to really integrate our service and how we interact with others, how we see our world, how we interpret our world, the kind of expectations that we put on others about ourselves and about how we present ourselves in the world. It's really important that we kind of compare these sorts of truths and find out which feel best to us and which ones we want to align with, because it can be confusing. It can be really anchored and tied into, mind control and manipulations and things like habitual training and all types. You can put whatever kind of psychiatric words you want to on it, whatever. But the truth of it is that, there's a promoted version, and the promoted version, is negatively aligned. And so in order for us to sort of really embody something that's different and positively aligned, it can be very helpful to sort of have these reminders of, oh, this could be this way, but remember, we could also look at it this way. So I'm going to go through these really quickly. So it's going to be dark versus light. I'll do the dark side and then the light side. We have a focus on the past or future with dissatisfaction. The negatively oriented self, systems, people always escape their present moment. They are not comfortable with themselves because they have a lie to hide from. right? They don't want to accept their eternal worth. Um, and so their mind and everything will always sort of jump into any other area than the quiet present moment. It'll either ruminate on the past in a dissatisfied way, either, oh, the good old days, or pick apart on some kind of traumatic or whatever sort of past scenario that you'd like to sort of, ruminate on or scour over, or whatever, the thing is, or the future, whether you have worries about the future, concerns, or whether it's more of a micromanaging control aspect of obsessing over the future or what others are doing. um, that's always a huge focus. And conversely, a positively aligned person, system, people, they are grounded in the present moment, and it's with gratitude. They are happy and um, grateful for just being alive in their present moment, for their set and setting. Nothing crazy, no over the top jubilation or something. Like, it doesn't have to be ecstatic. It can just be simple. I have breath in my lungs. I'm a light with life and intelligence. Thank God for that. You know, um, this is why meditation is a huge exercise tool, especially for people who are newly waking up, especially when we want to break away from mind control or negative orientations, to quiet the mind, center in the present moment. Mindful practices, or whatever your kind of conscious Zen work could be. It doesn't have to be meditation, which sit in silence. But whatever to ground you in your present moment and make you aware of it and glad to be alive in it, that is positively aligned. And yeah, next one. Negatively aligned is motivated by wants, and that's due to their lack, their this truth lack they have. So everything that they're doing, their service, is motivated. All energy, thoughts, and ideas will be motivated by what they want. They will want something and need something for themselves, and then be kicked into action. Conversely, positively aligned systems, people, ideas, those are motivated by love and truth. They come from within, of an abundant source, sort of like a little pantry or a little gathering of ideas, or whatever the thing is within you. It's already there in abundance, so much that you want to share it. The negative has this limited, conditional idea of life and of their systems, of their interactions, of their work and purpose here. It's limited, it's conditional, it has an impending end. If I do this, I get this, retirement, or whatever the little carrot at the end of the stick is. Um, that's a negative alignment. The true positive accepting alignment is eternal, unlimited, and infinite. It never ends. It's just an ongoing cycle. Separation and chaos are emphasized in a negatively aligned atmosphere, a system, people, business, whatever, right? Separation and chaos. Conversely, in a positively seeking atmosphere, we have unity and harmony being emphasized. Oneness is denied, restricted, or blocked in a negative system, of course, or a negative person. They don't like the idea of oneness. Everybody cannot be exactly equal. There has to be a hierarchy of authority of some sort of way. Somebody has to be in charge. Conversely, we do have other ways to operate positively flowing systems, people, and even services. They derive their power off the connection of oneness, off of respecting sovereignty and equality within all working pieces of the system, or the business, or whatever it is. Service will be always offered with expectations in a negative system. You don't get anything for free, of course, and you have to do something either before or after. And it's very much followed up with, it's micromanaged, it's enforced. This sort of retribution, and it has to be in sort of 1 through 3 ways. It's not unlimited. You can't offer sort of service back in whatever way that you want, it has to be in this sort of ways that's been agreed upon already. In a positively aligned working, um, it's free. There's no expectations. The service has already been given and offered because it felt great to do it by whoever offered it up, and it's there. And if you'd like it or you'd want to observe it or take a part in it or whatever, then go right ahead and let's see what happens from there. There's not expectations. Um, this sort of like, no, I won't get too many. I don't want to get too long. Sorry. Let's just stick to here. Two more left. The negative systems are dependent and reliant on input from others. And this we're really going to get into as we start to talk about, right, polarity and exchanges with others. How can we get away from the sort of impending laws that seem to say that we have to have input from others? We have to have external confirmation in order to confirm that this thing is worthy or real or viable. We have to have energetic input. We have to have money in order to do this. We have to have something first in order to make more. These are new topics, new concepts, and sometimes with the language that we have, things, you can't pull out the nuances that you really want to. But conversely, right, a positively people, services, businesses would be never reliant on others or externally motivated in any way. It would just be, it would just happen, because it happens, because someone chooses to be there. I'm dying to get into like real life examples, but again, I'm pushing on my time this morning already. Final one is the negative systems or negatively aligned truths say that worth has to be given or earned. It is extremely externally based. Worth has to be confirmed by others. That's literally the definition for this negative alignment. Conversely, we could agree, and we could say as a truth, wait a minute, no. Worth of life is not a financial value. It's not anything to do with that sort of 3D value that we put on things. Worth is bestowed at the point of creation. It's not anything that could ever be externally attained. It's already there. The fact that it is alive is that confirmation, is all that would ever be needed. And the fact that you would seek out more is a distortion. It's incorrect. Going against the truth that's already been set there in front of you and saying, oh, wait, I need more. Oh, wait, let's make sure this is really true. And again, that is an infringement. There's no acceptance and allowance in that sort of mindset, in that sort of perception and approach. And so again, we can sense and feel it's got a negative alignment. There is an anchor. There is something connected to that, a little entanglement there, of expectations. There's a little pullback where you think you're going to get something out of that. And yeah, so that's where we should really be paying attention to. So this has been sort of just a roundabout sort of backup away from the external reality that we talked about a bit with level 5, and to just remember again what the truths are about our systems, how energetic systems work, and remembering and honoring that there are 2 different versions of work available, and to be holding ourselves accountable for what kind of work we're actually doing and when. Not to, point a finger and say, oh, you're not doing enough, or, oh, it should be this way, or whatever the case is that maybe you might feel. But but really to just honor yourself and to just do the work that we're actually here to do. You know, it's not about perfection. It's not about attaining this certain end goal. It's just about uh, the metamorphosis, the changing, the alchemizing, the transmutation of energy. Um, and so, yes, the spirit is, of course, all about the flow. It is about moving through the ebb and the flow and give and take. Um, and so, yeah, we're going to dive way more into that and talk more about the give and the take that we can naturally practice between our positive and negative systems within ourselves, the toroidal and the internal vortex. You know, I'm going to talk a lot more about how we can learn balancing work between those two opposing forces, and also how we can segregate each one of them and learn more about the spirit communion and more about that the transactions and transmutation when we look at external service alone and how we interact with those specific internal and external changes that come with just your service. Um, and then also, you know, that different and yet the same observation, comparisons, and assessments that will happen with the internal and external flow in the inner vortex and in that inner system world. And then, you know, we'll be able to really bring it all together into the third part and really have a more clear um, image of the ever changing, you know, spirit. um, yeah. It's a lot to explain. It is a bit of difficult new language for me, as I'm sure it is for most people. Um, but I hope that I'm making sense. I hope that you enjoy this video, as of course. Thank you so much for your audience. I really appreciate everyone who watches my videos. As I always tell you guys, thank you so much for your beautiful contribution to our collective. We couldn't be whole without you. Thank you for witnessing mine. And in the meantime, you could always find more info, free tips and tools over on my website, amariespeaks.com, or find me on Spotify or Telegram. Thanks again for listening, and I will catch you next time.